I've got a lightning round of questions that I want to get through just to talk more about your experience.
Let's do it.
What performance was the most fun for you?
Limp Bizkit and Rage.
Word. And that was the same night?
Korn was pretty sick too.
What performance was the worst experience?
I can't say. The lineup was unreal. There was Jewel, there was Sheryl Crow, there was Willie Nelson, there was James Brown. I mean, they were all amazing. There was Bush. It was amazing. I can't say there was anything bad. The lineup was just unreal, and I'll never see a lineup like that again in my lifetime. And if there is, it's already been done.
Yeah. Let me flip that then. What performance do you feel brought out the worst behavior in people?
Limp Bizkit.
Yeah. Both documentaries tend to blame Limp Bizkit.
It's not Limp Bizkit's fault. Limp Bizkit was a product of their time, and their time was angry white boys. I mean, this is where white boys are starting to realize that they're not all going to get the golden ticket, and they're not going to get the chocolate factory. They're realizing that their parents' marriages are on the brink of divorce. They realize that two parents have to work to have a semi-decent lifestyle. They're realizing, a lot of what we've been told growing up is all bullshit. I mean, we were the generation to really start having a reckoning and start questioning, our parents and the way society was going. Like, if the golden ticket was the golden ticket, how come it didn't feel like gold once you touched it? And I think Limp Bizkit was a reflection of where at least white boys were at, which was unhappy and angry, right? This is the generation of latchkey kids. This is the first generation of kids who are literally coming home to an empty house. Both parents are working now. Both parents are working. This is the era of unprecedented amount of divorces, right? Like, it went from 2 out of 10 marriages being divorced, and by the 80s and 90s, 6 out of 10 marriages are ending in divorce. So these are kids who are coming home to no parents for one reason or another, and they're pissed. They've got jobs. It doesn't pay that much. They're trying to figure out how to get out into the world and be on their own. But, also there's a sort of a kink in the armor of what wealth looks like. I mean, this is like they said in the documentary, this is the Clinton scandal right now. Like, there's kind of like sex on mainstream TV. There's inappropriate behavior within power structures on mainstream TV. If the president's acting inappropriately with an intern, are you really shocked a bunch of drunk white boys are acting inappropriately at an open concert for 3 days in tents after water and food ran out and they've been on drugs for, 72 hours?
Interesting.
What's imitating what? Kids are imitating adults, right? How about we act better? We'd probably see better results from them. Mm-hmm. But somehow we expect kids to have a higher emotional intelligence than we do.
It's a very good point. The second documentary, the one that most recently came out, is called Trainwreck on Netflix. Mm-hmm. In that one, they made sure to show the graffiti that specifically said "down with profit stock." Did you hear people specifically using that term, profit stock?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think that this is the era where we're transitioning, right, from the non-digital to the digital age. This generation has 1 foot pre-technology and 1 foot post-technology. Mm-hmm. And we're understanding things on a faster level, on a different level, and we're questioning whether or not capitalism is really working, and for who. And I think, surprisingly, mainstream white boys were questioning it, which was sort of unprecedented. I mean, I think that's the precursor to how, the Trump administration, reached a presidency at all.
Interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, the idea that Woodstock's supposed to be about peace and love, and by the time you get midway through Woodstock 99, people are calling it profit stock, and everyone's spray painting that everywhere because they know they're being price gouged. They know they're being taken advantage of. They're recognizing it, and they're saying it's bullshit. That's why I believe the managers of the whole thing could have stopped this train wreck, aptly named train wreck, from happening once they saw people spray painting profit stock. Once they heard people calling it profit stock, y'all should have said, fuck trying to make a profit on this. We need to make sure we don't have people dying. But
it depends on what type of contracts they have, right? Like, I don't know what type of contracts the vendors had with the people who threw the event. Like, they could be independent contractors, meaning the people who threw the event may not have any jurisdiction over how vendors run their particular unit. So just because I hire you to sell food here doesn't mean I, as the concert promoter or the mayor of the town, doesn't mean I have any control over how you run your business as it functions at my event. I'm just basically allowing you space.
That's a good point.
To run your business, right? Like if I let McDonald's open up a stand there, I can't tell McDonald's don't sell Big Macs. I want you to, they're still going to do what they do. We just make an agreement that you can do what you do here. So again, I don't know what those contracts look like, but I'm not clear that there was jurisdiction for the concert promoters over whether or not they could control what vendors were doing at their particular, stores.
Interesting. That's a good point. Yeah, because if they did try to come in at the midway through and say no more charging more than X amount for water, or just give the water away for free, we'll reimburse you, whatever. You have a lawsuit for breach of contract on your desk by the time the festival's over.
And everyone was vastly unprepared for how many people was going to show up to this. No one was prepared. No one.
How did you handle the water shortage with like your group?
We were dehydrated and I fainted at one point and ended up in the tent with the medic and had to get an IV. We had made it like all the way up to the front, and I can't remember if it was Red Hot Chili Peppers, but we had finally made it all the way up to the front. But we were so dehydrated. I mean, I think we hadn't had a drop of water in maybe like 12 hours, and it was 100 degrees outside. And we were drunk and stoned and high and everything else. I mean, I always feel like my friends and I, we all had a role in our kind of how we handled going out. My girlfriend Crystal was super pretty, so she always got us in. I'm the one that kept us in, and my girlfriend Kristen kind of always made sure we made it out alive. So she was the one that when I fainted, was able to wave down security. They literally tossed me over this banister that separated the audience from the stage and carried me hands and legs down to the medic's office, where there were hundreds of people also dehydrated and hungry. I mean, people ran out of money. People ran out of food. People hadn't eaten in days. Supplies were gone within a day and a half. And no one was allowed to bring anything in. And now you have no supplies.
Right. And that's what I was pointed out in the first one, Music Box on HBO Max. That one really made it very clear that you were seized when you walked in and forced to throw this shit out.
Yeah. The only thing you were allowed to bring in was alcohol and drugs.
And then you wonder why a riot happened.
Yeah. I mean, there's a reason we had 14 bottles of Listerine and no food.
Oh my God. So you survived on alcohol and drugs for 3 days, basically.
Basically. And then we were sick for 3 months afterwards.
That's the part that was left out of both documentaries. Talk about that.
Yeah, I think one girl in one of the documentaries, actually the one on Netflix, she said that she had sores on her face, sores inside her mouth, it's almost like getting dysentery. You get sick from the water, you get sick from the porta potties overflowed. Everything, water, porta potties, piss, everything ran together. And then at one point, people were so fucked up and high that they were sliding in the mud, thinking that this was a mudslide. Meanwhile, you're sliding in 100,000 people's shit.
Right.
People were sick for weeks. I mean, we had a cold for weeks.
And when we did our first talk about Woodstock, you mentioned that people, even if you weren't sliding around in that mud / sewage, by the time you went back into the concert area, people are rubbing up against you. So even if you stayed out of it, it got on you somehow.
There were no showers at a certain point. And the water was coming from the unsanitized area. So you just stopped showering because you were going to get hepatitis. Yeah.
That was also a thing I noticed. It seemed like the place where they had the showers, the place where they had the porta potties, and the one place where they had some free-ish water that was just not even really sanitized tap water was all right next to each other. And so so once people started fucking with those hoses, or they just got destroyed or whatever, it makes sense. It's understandable that yes, the water that's supposed to be potable got infected, got infested, whatever you want to say. It got dirty because it's right next to the fucking porta potty and the showers are right there.
Yes.
Why would you have those things so close?
They were ill prepared for the volume of people that showed up to this event.
Your porta potty should be a football field and a half, at least, away from where the drinking waters is.
So at one point, the porta potties overflowed, the showers were not working, and there was no fresh water. So you basically just survived on alcohol and drugs.
Goodness.
After being in the sun all day at 100-degree heat for 3 days.
Yeah.
I mean, honestly, I'm surprised like more people didn't kill each other.
Right. And the Music Box documentary talked about how there were like, I think 5 deaths and then 5 or so ish rapes. So those are just the ones that were reported. There were several more blatant sexual assaults of women getting groped and stuff like that.
Had to be.
Trainwreck, the Netflix documentary, didn't mention any of the deaths.
Yeah. They want to downplay that part because that just, ignites lawsuits, but there had to be. I mean, I was very happy that we had a guy with us. There were definitely moments that we were like, I do not want to be a woman alone, stoned, drunk, lost from my friends here. You could have been raped at any moment and no one would hear anything. It was so loud. There were so many people. There were so many bodies pressed against each other that you could have been dragged off into a tent somewhere. No one would have heard anything. It was a nonstop music all day, all night. And then at night was a rave. I mean, this was one of the sickest events I've ever experienced in my life. But I'm genuinely surprised that we made it out of there without being raped or killed. And I genuinely think partly because we had a guy with us and we did not separate.
Word. Knowing what you know, would you go through it again?
Hell yeah. It was amazing. But I'd have to be young also.
That's what's up. About how old were you when you went?
Young enough to live through some bullshit like that and think it was an amazing experience and worth doing it again.
Love it. Got it. Awesome.
On this episode of Raw Food.